If I click this button, as you can see, we are going to have a new model that will help the user to sign in and sign up. We have 3 buttons here, but the last one will direct us to a new form. So using this form, we can sign in. I can go back, but using this button, you can change it to be a sign up form. So if I click this sign up with email, you can see we are going to have a different form in here. Now let's build it. But before that, we need to commit the previous changes to our GitHub repository. So in here, I'm going to push this data. I'm going to say, but we need to state all these changes first. Okay, now we can commit. Alright. So to add this model inside this div, we are going to have another component, and I'm going to name this Auth. Now let's add our component here. So inside this demo, I'm going to have a new folder called Auth and this Auth component here. Okay, now let's import it. As you can see, we have this Auth here. As you can see, if I open this Auth, we have this background which is a little dark. So we are going to make a reusable component for this one. So we can use that in other models inside our application. So in here, I'm going to have a new folder and call that utils. So all my reusable components will go under this folder. Okay. Now I'm going to make a new component here, model.jsx. Okay. So in here, I'm going to receive this children and just print the children here. Okay. Now I'm going to change this div to be a fragment also. Okay. So inside this, along with the children, I'm going to have a self-closing div here, which is this dark white. Okay. So I'm going to give it a class name here. Background color is going to be white, but with the opacity of 50, and we need to give it a position of fixed and set 0, and also z index is going to be 10. Okay, this is our model component. Now let's import it inside this Auth. So I'm going to change this with the model. Okay, so in the browser, if I refresh the page, as you can see, we have this dark white color. Okay. Now let's style this Auth to bring that on top of this white color. Now inside this Auth, I'm going to have a new section with the class name of z index of 50, position fixed, top 0, bottom 0, left is going to be 0, but for medium devices, left is going to be 10 rem. Okay. Now let's check it. Okay, we don't have any text here. I'm going to write here Auth. As you can see, my Auth is above this white color. Okay. Overflow is going to be auto. Right is going to be 0, but for medium devices, right is going to be 10 rem also. Background color white, and we need to have a little shadow. So again, I'm going to add the shadows inside this CSS. So I'm going to write here shadows. So we just have a box shadow here. Okay, now let's check it. As you can see, this is our model. Now let's move on. As you can see, we have an icon that will help us close this model, the text, and all our buttons here. So we are going to add them inside our model. So at first, I'm going to add this icon. So we need to get this icon from React icons that we just installed. Okay. I'm going to look for times here, and I need this one. Okay. Now let's import it here. Okay, so in here at first I'm going to have a button, and the value is going to be this icon here. Okay, now I'm going to give it a class name, position absolute, top is going to be 8, right is going to be 8, text size is going to be 2 pixel, and hover effect we are going to give it an opacity of 50. Okay, now you can see this is our icon here. Alright, so following that we need to add this text and the buttons. So I'm going to add a new div here with the class name of flex column, justify center, item center, and gap is going to be 3 rem. So inside this div I'm going to have another fragment. Okay, and at first we need to have this text which is here. You can see if I click this button it will be join medium. If I click this back you can see it will be welcome back. So in here I'm going to have a heading 2, and for now I just write welcome back. Okay, I'm going to give it a style of text 2 pixel. Padding top is going to be 5 rem. Okay, that's it. Now let's add these buttons, but we need to import these icons. Okay, as you can see I have imported those icons, but for these buttons I'm going to add a reusable component. So down here I'm going to add a reusable component and call that button, and inside here I'm going to return this button, but we need to receive some props in here. So the first one is going to be icon, text, and also an onClick function. Now inside this button at first I'm going to render the icon and also the text. Okay, it's gonna be icon, and I'm going to give it a class name here, flex item center, gap is going to be 10 for small devices, width is going to be 20 rem, and border color is going to be black. Okay, and we need to have a little padding also. Padding X is going to be 3, padding Y is going to be 2, and round it full. Okay, now let's use this button. Again I'm going to have a new div here. So inside here I'm going to import this button. So the first one we need to add the icon. Now let's check it. As you can see this is our text here. We can actually make this icon a little bigger. So in here I can add a class name for this icon, and text is going to be Excel. Okay, now let's check it. As you can see we have a little bigger icon here. So as you can see we have a function. For now we don't have any functionality, so later on we are going to add that function. So I'm going to copy this 2 more times here, but you can see they don't have any spacing between them. So I'm going to add a class name here, flex column, gap is going to be 2, width fit content, and mx auto. Okay, now our buttons are looking good, but let's change the text and the icons. As you can see they are ready, but we need to change the color of this Facebook. So I'm going to add, okay, you can see we have this blue color for this button. Alright, Now let's see what else we have. As you can see, we have this text along with this button and also this text down here. Now let's add them. For that, inside the fragment, I'm going to have a paragraph element. So at first we are going to have a text, say no account, okay, and beside that we are going to have a button, and the text of this button is going to be create one. Okay, now let's see this. As you can see, we have this button along with this text. For this button, I'm going to give a class name, text green 600. This should be green. Okay, and we need to have a hover effect here and change the text to be green 700. Okay, now the font should be bold. Margin left is going to be 1. Okay, now let's check it. As you can see, we have a button here which is looking similar to this one. Alright, so this button will toggle between sign in and sign up. For that, we need to have a useState hook. So up here, I'm going to define a useState hook. Now, first of all, I'm going to set a condition for this title. So if there is a create user, then we are going to change the title to be join medium. Otherwise, it should be welcome back. So for creating a user, we are going to write join medium. For signing in, we are going to write welcome back. Now let's set an onClick for this button. I'm going to write here onClick, set create user, and it's going to be not create user. Okay, now let's check it. So if I click this, as you can see, it will be join medium. Otherwise, it's going to be welcome back. Now let's set condition on other buttons here. Okay, so I'm going to copy this from here and change this double quote to be a temporary string. Now let's set a condition on this one. So I'm going to write here, if there is create user, then we are going to change this to be sign up. Otherwise, we are going to change this to be sign in. Now let's check it. As you can see, inside the join medium, we are going to change the text to be sign up. Otherwise, it's going to be sign in. Now let's do the same for other buttons. Okay, now they are looking perfect. And finally, we need to change this text also. So in here, I'm going to set a condition. And also for this one. Okay, now let's check it. So if I click this one, as you can see, now we are asking the user to sign up. So if he already has an account, we ask him to sign in. And if he click it back, you can see we will be back to the sign in page. Alright, now let's see what else we have. As you can see, we have this text. So we can add that text inside a paragraph. I'm going to copy this text here. Okay, and outside the fragment, we are going to have another paragraph and just paste it here. Okay, now we need to give it a class name of, for medium devices, the width is going to be 33 rem, MX auto, text center, text size is going to be small, and margin bottom is going to be 3 rem. Okay, now you can see we have this text. If you check it inside the responsive part, this form is completely responsive. Now let's work on this form. As you can see, inside this sign in we have only 2 inputs, but inside this sign up we are going to have 4 inputs. Okay, Now let's work on this one. So inside this auth, I'm going to have another file and call that signin.jsx and also signup.jsx. Okay, so to show our sign in and sign up page, we need to set a condition between our sign in and sign up form and this page. Okay, so for that, again, we need to have another user state hook in here. So I just copy and paste this. By default, it's going to be empty string. Now in this fragment, I'm going to set a condition. Okay, I just copy all of them. And I'm going to say if sign in request is equal to empty string, then I'm going to just display this one. Okay, otherwise if sign in request is equal to sign in, then I wanna display this sign in component. Okay, but if the sign request is equal to sign up, then I'm going to display this sign up component. Okay, otherwise it's going to be null. Now as you can see, we are in this page because the default value for this sign in request is empty string. But if I write here sign in, now you can see we are in sign in page. This is up here. So if I write here sign up, then we are going to be in sign up page. Okay, I'm going to make it empty string again. Now I'm going to set an onClick in here. So inside reusable component, we need to have this click. So in here, I'm going to define this click, onClick, to be click. Okay, and now in here, I'm going to say click is equal to this arrow function. If there is create user, then we want to print sign up. Otherwise, we want to print this sign in. Okay, now let's check it. So if I click, as you can see, we are inside the sign in page. So if I click this, we will be redirected to the sign in page. But if I change this to be sign up and click this one, as you can see, we are in sign up form. Okay, now let's work on our form. So at first, I'm going to work on this sign in. So I'm going to open this and open this component in here. As you can see, we have a header here and the description along with these two inputs and these two buttons. Okay, now let's work on that. So I'm going to have a div in here with the class name of size class again. Margin top is going to be 6 rem. Text align is going to be center. Okay, inside here I'm going to have an heading 2 with the class name of text size is going to be 3XL, and the text is going to be sign in with email. Okay, now we are going to have a paragraph. So I just copy this paragraph from here and paste it here. Okay, now we need to give it a class name with full for mobile version, but start from small version. Width is going to be 25 rem. MX auto and padding Y is going to be 3 rem. Now let's check it. As you can see, our title and the description is ready. Now let's work on our form. So down here, we are going to have a form tag, and at first we need to have input, but again I'm going to use a reusable input in here. So I just write here input, and again inside these utils, if you remember, I said this folder will be for reusable components. I'm going to add this component here, input.jsx. Okay, now let's import it here from utils input. Okay, So we are going to send the type. Type is going to be email, and the title is going to be email also. We need to have another input. The type is going to be password, and the title also going to be password. Okay. Now let's open this component. I'm going to receive that type and title here. Now inside this input, we are going to have a div, and inside here we are going to have a label. So the label will display our title here, and down here we need to have an input with the type of this type, and also the name is going to be. Now let's check it. As you can see, we have this inputs here, but they are not styled yet. So I'm going to give it a class name here, flex column, to bring them on top of each other, and we need to give it a gap of 2. Okay. Now we need to give a style for this input. So class name, text center, we need to give it a border bottom, and border color is going to be black, and we need to get rid of this outline. Okay. Now let's check it. As you can see, we have our inputs. Now let's style this label, text small, and it should be capitalized. Now following these inputs, we are going to have a button, and the button is going to be sign in. Now let's style this button also. Class name, we are going to give it a padding x of 4, padding y 1, text is going to be small, rounded full, background color is going to be green and 700. Okay, now let's give it a hover effect here. Hover is going to be BG green and 800. Okay, now let's give it a text color of white. Width is going to be fit and MX auto. Okay, now let's test it. As you can see, we have this button, but for this parent, we need to give it a class name of flex column, and gap is going to be 4. Okay, as you can see, they have enough spaces between them. Alright, as you can see, we have another button here. So if I click this, I will be back to the main page. So now let's add this. So at first we need to import the icon. Okay, I just paste this icon name here, and it's going to be MD. So down this form, we are going to have another button, and the text is going to be this icon along with this all sign in option. As you can see, they are here. Now let's style them. So I'm going to give it a class name here, margin top 5, text size is going to be small, text color green and 600, hover effect text green and 700. Okay, and also we need to give it flex items center MX auto. Now let's check it. As you can see, they are in right place. Now to make that functionality, we need to get the use state hook from this auth. So I'm going to get this sign request. So I'm just pass that to the sign in component. Okay, I'm going to pass this to both of this component. So now let's open the sign in again. So in here, I'm going to receive this, and in this button, we need to set an onClick and just set this to be this empty string. Okay, now let's check it. So if I click, as you can see, I will be back to the main page. Okay, now let's work on this sign up form. As you can see, we have the same page as the previous page, so I just copy all of them from here and just paste it here. Okay, so I just change this to be sign up. Now as you can see, if I refresh the page and open this one, we have these two inputs, but we can add more inputs. We can change this text here, so it's going to be sign up. Okay, and down here we can change this also, sign up options, sign up. Now we need to have another input for the username. The type is going to be text and the title is going to be username. This is email. We need to have another input for confirming password, so it's going to be password and the title is going to be repassword. Okay, it should be capital letter. Now as you can see, we have 4 inputs as expected. Okay, and if I click this one, you can see I will be back to the main page. And that's it. We just make the model, and now let's close this model. So again, inside this auth, we are going to have another use state hook. So in here I'm going to say const model set model is going to be use state, and it's going to be false by default. So in here, as you can see, we can close the model by this icon, also with this background. So we need to set an onClick on this icon and this background. Okay, at first I'm going to send this use state hook to this model component, and inside this I'm going to receive this one. Okay, now for this class name we need to set a condition. I just add this class names here, and in second line I'm going to set a condition saying if there is model, then we are going to set visible and opacity is going to be, otherwise we are going to say invisible and opacity is going to be 0. Now let's check it, but before that we need to set an onClick here. onClick set model, and it's going to be false. Okay, as you can see it is false by default, but if I make it true here and click this one, it will be gone. But we need to make it smoothly, so for that again we can use the transition here. Transition all and duration is going to be 500. Now you can see it's very smooth. Now let's close this model also. So again we are going to set a condition here. So I'm going to change this class name to be a temporary string again. Okay, and in the second line I'm going to say if there is model, then we are going to say visible and opacity is going to be 100. Okay, and otherwise it should be invisible and opacity is going to be 0. Let's add that transition also. Transition all and duration is going to be 500. Okay, now let's check it. If I click this one, you can see both of them will be gone. And if you don't want to overuse this line of code, you can set it to a separate variable here. Let's say const hidden is equal to this line of code which is here, but we don't need this one. So I just remove them from here and just add this transition and just add this transition here, and following that we just add this variable hiding. Okay, now let's check it. As you can see, if I click, it will still work the same. Now you can pass this variable to this model also. Inside this model you can receive this and just simply replace it with this one. Okay, and that's it. Now if I click it, you can see it's still working, but we need to close our model using this button also. So inside this auth, as you can see, we have this button. I can set an unclick here and set model to be false. Okay, it's working perfectly. Okay, now let's push this code. So again in here I'm going to say state all the changes and just commit it. Okay, now to open our module using this button, we need to move our use state hook to the parent component, which is this header. So again I'm going to open this auth here, and we need to first get this model and set model in here, and just move this use state hook to the parent component, which is this demo header. So in here I'm going to add this, and again we need to pass this to our auth component. So in here I'm going to pass them. Okay, and inside here we need to set an onclick saying set model is going to be true. Okay, now let's check it. So if I click this one, as you can see, I am able to open this model, and I can close this. I can close using this background color also, and I can set an unclick to this button also. So I just copy this one and add it here. Alright, that's it. I can push this code also. Okay, so the second one is going to be this banner. Now let's work on this one.